everyone, and welcome back to, finally, some more Hearthstone content with your boy Tommy Wave here. I've been seeing a lot of tier lists around for Hearthstone Battlegrounds, which I've been indulging in quite a lot. You can always come check me out on Twitch, we've been playing it a fair bit. I've seen a lot of tier lists around, mostly people talking about hero tier lists, and I've been enjoying them. I think there's a lot of really interesting takes from a lot of very smart people, as well as some lukewarm takes from some less desirables. But it's been really fun to see what everyone's saying. The game's very new. There's a lot of interesting opinions going around, but I haven't seen people talk about like a tier list for minions, and I feel like it's definitely worth talking about. It's something interesting. Once again, it's purely opinion. If you've got a different thought, if you think I've gotten one of these wrong, definitely let me know in the comments below. But what I wanted to do is talk about 1-star minions. So those early game minions, particularly, you're buying on turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. What kind of starts they give you, how they kind of affect the board, maybe some late game potential. I think with 1-star it's more mid game potential, but I just thought I'd talk about them. The first one I'm going to talk about is Wrathweaver. So Wrathweaver, of course, the 1/1 gets buffed every time you play a demon. I think Wrathweaver is the only wild card that I'll give. So I've kind of set these up here. We've got average, above average, great, below average, and wild card. And Wrathweaver is the only wild card. The reason I put it in this wild card spot is because there are games that you'll play with Wrathweaver where it's actively detrimental to you. Like, you just take a bunch of damage from it. It becomes like, a 7/7. You dig to find the third one to get the triple, because I think if you're going to go Wrathweaver, you really need to commit. And unfortunately, there are going to be games where you commit too hard, you commit too many resources, and it really messes up your mid game and late game. Then there are also going to be games where you snag the triple really easily. You don't need to reroll too much for it. You're getting stuff like Voidwalker, the Nerazim Overlord, and it just plays out really well. So that's why I put in a wild card. I think the Wrathweaver games are always really fun to play. It's always really interesting to play the game of, do you get the Gul'dan or do you not? But yeah, I wouldn't fault anyone for putting the Wrathweaver in the do not draft tier, do not pick tier. I also wouldn't fault someone for putting Wrathweaver in the above average category. Maybe not great, but certainly above average. The next one we've got here is Alleycat. Alleycat is, I think, a great minion. I think it's really good. I think that, in fact, I'll do this now. I think both Alleycat and Murloc Tidehunter are two of the best as far as minions go, because they come in 2 pieces. Obviously, you can sell both of them, so it's 3 gold investment, 2 gold back when you eventually do sell them, and you will. I think you end up selling quite a lot of 1-star minions by that mid game, late game. You want to clear out your field, play some more powerful ones. I think that makes sense. As far as the synergies go for Murlocs and Beasts, it's pretty minor. I mean, I guess Murloc Tidehunter is a bit bigger, so if I had a great plus tier, I guess Murloc Tidehunter would go in there. But I really like these two. In particular, it does allow you to do the, turn 1, you pick up one of these, turn 2, you go to Tavern Tier 2, and on turn 3, you can sell one of your tokens to pick up 2 minions. So you get 2 tier 2 minions, which just usually you're not going to be struggling against many things except AFK maybe, but it just really helps you kind of line up a lot of your game. You get 2 minions when you're on 5 gold. When you go to 6 gold, you can pick up 2 more minions, or you can take the tavern level up, and then the turn after, if you didn't take the tavern level up, you're at 7 gold, and the level up costs 4, so you can buy another thing and level up, and you could potentially have 5 tier 2 or good minions. Gives you a greater chance of snagging a triple as well. Yeah, fantastic. Really think that these are 2 of the best ones. Direwolf Alpha. I think I'm going to put this in the below average tier. Direwolf Alpha tends to lose to a lot of stuff. The only thing I like about it is you can have some really interesting positional plays, and it actually makes some of the worse minions better in a way, in that like it makes the taunts really good, like the protector, righteous protector, Voidwalker, makes those a bit better because you can usually maximize the attack bonuses, and especially in the early game, even just one extra attack is really, really good. It can definitely sway the tide, make sure you're not getting too chipped away early on. Still kind of fades away in that mid game. And once again, I will just mention, of course, with all of these, this is more of a vacuum situation. Obviously, if you're playing Mukla, I think obviously like Alleycat's even better. All the beasts are better, but I think we're just talking about anytime there's no like hero-based implications with this. Yeah, Direwolf Alpha, I'd put in below average. I think that's because I would say the most average minion is Rockpool Hunter. I think Rockpool Hunter is a solid average minion. You're generally going to win or draw against a lot of other minions that people buy early on. It's a Murloc, so look, doesn't really have a lot of positive implications there. I think Murlocs are pretty bad. But Rockpool Hunter, you're not going to... I don't ever think I ever feel bad picking a Rockpool Hunter. There are certainly better options, but Rockpool Hunter fits right in there at the average. Mechuru. What do I think about Mechuru? It's pretty tough. It's almost average. Almost average. I think in a vacuum, I would say below average. Though Mechuru has the big plus side that it does pair really well with Cobalt, the Cobalt Guardian, the Divine Shield, whenever a mech comes into play. So I think Mechuru has a little bit more legs in the mid game than a lot of these other minions. That being said, it does kind of drop off a fair bit. The gold version is, I don't know, kind of average. Yeah, I think below average for Mechuru. Tends to tie or lose to most other openers. Micromachine, the other mech, definitely a below average tier. I'm not a big believer in Micromachine. I think that a lot of the time, even if you do get the gold one, it ends up being a very top-heavy minion, and most of these successful compositions you see are not top-heavy. They're very, not even bottom-heavy. They just have a good mix of attack and defense. And so the Micromachine kind of loses out a fair bit. It's also a bit of a, not a red herring, what's the word? Like, it's a bit of a trap to kind of put an Annoyo module on this and try and make it a bit more resilient. I think you're better off just picking something different. Or if you really need to, just selling it, finding something else. Well, if I had a tier lower than below average, Murloc Tidecaller would probably be in there. I think Tidecaller is probably the worst of the 1-stars. Yeah, probably the worst. Murlocs are such a trap. I don't think I've ever seen any really good games, people playing with Murlocs. I don't think you see them very often in the top 2 or the top 4 for that matter. Yeah, I think it's just a big trap. It has the same problem with Micromachine, except it's in a worse tribe, essentially. Next, Righteous Protector. Yeah, I think Righteous Protector is solidly below average. It's an okay positional play. It is always going to take 2 hits, which is good. Problem is it's 2 hits from anything. Doesn't exactly scale very well. Yeah, I guess if you were trying to make a play where... I guess Righteous Protector could theoretically stick around in your composition for a lot longer, just because it is always going to absorb those 2 hits, and there's plenty of compositions out there looking at you beasts that really just need a couple of attacks They need to bide that time to get a couple of death rattles off, get the scavenging hyenas over that threshold where they just get traded into, get your big bad wolves off and things like that. But that's about it. It really doesn't... I don't think it comes into play too often after that. So, solidly below average. Above average. Vulgar Homunculus. It's somewhere here. Somewhere here. I think above average. I think above average for the Vulgar Homunculus. It certainly locks down the board quite a lot. I think Vulgar Homunculus usually wins or draws with most things. It's usually pretty viable even into the mid game. It's always good to kind of have a taunt around there. It's good target for Nerazim Overlord. You get it to a nice chunky 4/6 pretty quickly. It is one of the ones that's difficult to gauge whether you go for a gold or not. Sometimes it can be a bit of a trap because you're going to take 4 or 6 damage from all of these Vulgar Homunculuses to get them in play, and it's probably a minion you're not going to stick around. That's not going to stick around until the late game. But as far as the early game and that early mid to mid game applications go, I think Vulgar Homunculus is I wouldn't be unhappy to have a Vulgar Homunculus early on. Voidwalker. I think Voidwalker is about average. About average. For the same kind of reasons that, Vulgar Homunculus is really good. The Voidwalker is average because it just has slightly less stats. It does not trade with any of the two toughness minions. But once again, it's just a nice taunt to have there. Once again, Nerazim Overlord, which I think is a 2-drop that comes up, a 2-star that comes up pretty often, and is often bad. And turning one of those often bad cards into a good card is definitely an application. It's definitely something to think about when you're deciding which path you want to go down. But I also wouldn't fault anyone for putting the Voidwalker in below average, but I think I would prefer a Voidwalker over any of these minions here. So I think it's rightly placed. Last one, Selfless Hero. Yeah, probably below average. I think if we were to order these as well, it would probably be something like... this, maybe. With the lowest down here. I think Direwolf Alpha is probably the best of the below average. Selfless Hero just on its own doesn't really do anything. It doesn't exactly scale well, though I think it scales better than almost any of the other 1-star minions, because they're putting two Divine Shields on things, especially when you have no Divine Shields in your composition, can be actually pretty backbreaking, especially in that mid-game, because not a lot of compositions will have heaps and heaps of token generation, other than beasts. It's only once you start getting to like the piloted shredders and things like that, where, and replicating menaces, where there's just plenty of 1/1s around to make Divine Shields a lot worse. So I do think that Selfless Hero scales the best, but that is possibly the best reason to put it in below average, because it's kind of a trap. Same thing as Murloc Tidecaller. Even if you're playing like Curator, I would really not want Selfless Hero. Even though you start with a minion in play to give Divine Shield, it's still not great. But yeah, that's kind of my idea of the 1-drop tier list. I'm very into the more economical side of things, or the positional side of things with the taunts here. Not so much into the kind of all-in-one, like very aggressive like Micromachines and Tidecallers and things like that. But let me know what you think. What's your 1-star of choice? Which one do you always want to see in that first 3? Have I gotten any of these wrong? Is there anyone out there who's real big on Micromachine? Anyone out there who thinks that these token makers are kind of dirt tier? Yeah, let me know. Anyway, that's a bit of a tier list. I think I might do a couple more of these. They're pretty fun to make, pretty fun to talk about the game. Obviously, the 1 stars are kind of a bit easier than a lot of the other tiers, a lot of the other star levels. But yeah, let me know what you think. I'll be back soon with some more Hearthstone content. Stay safe, stay wavy. I love you a lot. Bye.